Hello, today is October 9th, 2018. This is the standard SIG cluster lifecycle call. We have a couple items on the agenda for today. I see that Aish has the first item, but I don't see Aish on the call.
Oh, I'm right here.
Oh, SIG release. Okay. Did you want to take away the first item?
Sure. I think most of you would have heard me in other calls by now. So 113 is already underway, and we started feature collection yesterday. And the dates are, we have a code freeze coming up on the 15th of November. So this is a pretty short cycle. So Kenrick, who's the enhancement lead, and me, we are just meeting up with different SIGs to get an understanding of what their enhancements load is going to be for this cycle, and kind of encourage folks to think a little bit more around stability items, as in bug fixes or increasing test coverage or landing things that might have slipped in the previous releases, as opposed to taking on a big risky feature that might be tough to wrangle in the short 6+ weeks time frame. That's pretty much the main reason why I wanted to be here. And we were also looking at the features from cluster lifecycle for 113. And so far we just see one on the repo. And I've noted that in the meeting agenda there. This is feature number 11. It says dramatically simplify Kubernetes cluster creation. So a question I had around this was, is it more of a kube admin tracking issue, or is it specifically cluster lifecycle?
Let's take a look at the issue here real quick. Because I don't know if that's one of the original ones to get kubeadmin to GA.
Yeah.
Our goal is to go to GA this cycle. I think that is actually the original.
I think actually that's the umbrella issue even above that. That was the original, like, we should do something about kubeop issue. Like, yeah.
I see.
I don't know if there should be a separate issue for kubeadm to GA, right?
I think there is, but that's the primary deliverable that we're aiming to target in the 113 timeframe. SIG cluster lifecycle has a bunch of stuff that can release asynchronously. It's not part of the release.
Yeah, I think the kubeadmin feature, let me quickly make sure that the other one is also.
Yeah, I went through all of them, pretty much scrubbed through all 120 open issues yesterday, and this is sort of the kubeadmin GA issue. So yeah. I didn't see anything else that is more or less promoting it to GA, but this was the umbrella issue that is also all encompassing.
Yeah, we do see a couple others that says automate upgrades with kubeadmin upgrade command, and then
that should be closed. That's been done for a long time.
Okay, because it says graduating to stable, and it's.
I think that's part of the problem with the features repo that we had over time, is we just had a bunch of individual features, even though the tool tied them all together, and it was about graduating things to GA. So I think if you have a listing of kubeadm issues, I think I can probably go through, because I know Lucas tracked them more in the past. We just bump them every cycle. Some of them are really old, and we should probably just do our due diligence to close them, and as well as like move to the KEP process, so we actually have cleanly defined, hierarchical means of tracking issues over time.
Okay. As far as I see, I've copied the 3 that are there in the features spreadsheet and in the 113 repo, in the features repo for 113. Kendrick, feel free to add if I missed anything. And Tim, if you could go ahead and scrub these and close them out / move them, that'd be great.
Yep, I'll do that.
Great. And if the 11 is, if the issue number 11, if that's sufficient to track the kubeadmin GA work, then if you could add any more information there regarding the readiness, then that would be great.
So the next item you had was the upgrade test failures, and I can already tell that this is not kubeadmin specific. It's
So I was hoping if Robert or anybody else might be on the call. just to get, this is not kubeadmin at all. This is the Google maintained ones. So I just wanted to know if there's a point of contact from cluster lifecycle who could help to see if it's a test infra failure versus SIG GCP. We've pinged SIG GCP on it, but in the past I've had more success from folks in cluster lifecycle than from GCP in debugging these things.
Typically, Robert has always routed properly, but Robert, I believe, is on vacation for the next indeterminate period of time. I don't know how long he's on vacation for.
I can have a look at this issue, and I was just scanning through the logs, and there's nothing like, it looks like it actually runs for 15 hours. It doesn't like just pauses. So I will have a look at it en route, because this is definitely SIG cluster lifecycle responsibility for triage, and then hopefully we punt it to someone else pretty quickly.
Thank you. We are just mainly looking to see if this test needs to be in the blocking dashboard. If so, then we need to.
I think otherwise we have zero coverage on upgrade, so I would hope it.
It kind of chronically been timing out since August, so that's concerning. And thanks a lot, Justin, if you could help out. Great. That's all I had. Unless Kendrick, you have anything else?
Nope, that's all I got.
Awesome.
So apart from Robert, the other original maintainer of these tests is Rosie. Perhaps Tim Sinclair can clarify.
Yeah, Chris Rousey.
I don't know.
Yes, that's Chris Rousey.
Yeah. He kind of is busy with another internal project right now. So that's why Robert was my only point of contact. He kind of told me Zach will be looking at it, but I just wanted to raise it to the SIG so that there can be more eyes.
Yeah, I think the problem we have is that we have parallel tracks by which we manage things, and they kind of all get routed through the SIG. Even the SIG, only certain parties maintain A versus B. I would love it if Google would switch to a kubeadm wrap deployer, because then there could be only one, and we would be vetting one and leveraging that.
Yeah, but we're always going to have multiple tools anyway, right? I mean, we decided to do that, so I feel that yes, we should all use kubeadm, but we're still going to have this dichotomy on the higher levels, like we're going to have different API providers. So
the higher up the stack you go, the more differentiation will occur. But I think that the base level of just doing base level upgrades, that should be, I would say that lowest level tier, there should probably be only one, right?
I think once we do that, then the broken things will be at the next level up, because kubeadm is perfect, right?
No, it's not.
But you know what I mean? Like, I don't think this problem will. I think that's a good thing to do. I don't think it will solve the problem, and I'm not sure it is even a problem. I think that it is okay for like different people to route different sub projects, right?
Sure, I totally agree, but this has been a perpetual problem of we get pinged, I get pinged all the time, and I say like I don't maintain that, and no one on the SIG other than Google maintains that stuff.
So SIG cluster lifecycle shelters the kubeup as a deployer, but the tests should be maintained by SIG GCP.
Yes, that was our understanding, and we generally we kind of assigned the issue to SIG GCP, but the escalation route there is kind of not that great.
Yeah. I think the issue is like, just because GCP is the last, it's not really fair if GCP is like the last one still testing, that it gets like all the test failures, you know what I mean? Like, so if we turned off COPS, then would GCP be responsible for like all test failures across the Kubernetes project, right? That just seems like not the right thing to do. Like, it's sort of like it's not that it's a GCP specific test, it's that this is only tested on GCP. So I don't know, the routing thing to me feels.
No, that's not true. It's that this specific way that the tests are failing is only specific to GCP, because kubeadmin has its own upgrade tests. We have a suite across multiple versions for doing upgrade tests.
Yeah,
so
well,
if our signal is green and that signal's red, that's telling you something.
Yeah, let's see what. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the delta is. I guess I'll dig into it and try to figure it out.
Thanks a lot. That's all I had.
All right. Next up was the non-code contributor opportunities, KSFA. I don't see them on the call. Or Lubomir, did you want to talk to this one at all? I don't know if you were involved with it too.
Well, I don't have context on this one. Let me click the link at least.
We can always punt it if they're not here.
Yeah, see, this seems like a thread started by Ihor Voretsky, but I really don't have an idea what this is about. Fabrizio, can you mute the microphone, please? Thank you.
It seems like I did see this now. I saw the email go through. I don't know if there are, I think it's probably just a PSA. If you have non-code specific contributions or documentation or other things, that you have like this separate location for and a guide to follow. I don't know. I think PSA, this exists. Go read the link. I have not read it before this meeting, and they're not here to talk about it right now. So should we move on to the next item? Justin?
Cool. I guess I have shared the doc with this group, but I will share my screen just so that people don't have to like click through. But this is sort of a draft of something we've talked about in the past, which is that I would like to propose a new SIG repository for etcd management. I think last week, Daniel from Platform 9, who I think is just doing an errand but might be here soon, demonstrated etcd ADM, which is sort of like kubeadm for etcd. And we're really talking about etcd management, or management of an etcd cluster that is used for the Kubernetes control plane specifically. And then I've also been working to like have a sort of self-driving automation type thing. And the proposal is that we create a new SIG repository that is essentially the Platform 9 work, and then I rebase my work on top of that. The idea being that we have sort of the same approach as kubeadm. We have the toolkit, which works great and is very focused and more unopinionated, and then we can have things that build on top that sort of add more automation or like cross-machine collaboration and are more opinionated. So I did a document proposing the sub-project. It would be great if everyone in the SIG should have comment privileges at least. And if people do have comments, I would welcome them, but yeah.
So how does this sound as a mode of pushing this forward? Because typically, I don't recall if Robert did a KEP PR or not, but I think we did the first pass feedback on an initial doc that was well vetted, and then there was a KEP, and then there was just a single up-down vote. And that seems like I'd like to follow the same process we did with Cluster API, because that was wildly successful way, I think, of engaging all parties. I know it takes a little bit longer, but everybody gave a thumbs up, and it's been good for disseminating information and getting buy-in across the board.
Yeah, I'm happy to also do a KEP. I was trying to track down like the process, and as far as I can tell, the process is not to do a KEP, but I'm happy to do a KEP anyway. I don't know which process to follow, basically.
I think it was doc KEP, then it was an up-down vote inside the SIG. Okay. So what do you want to do? Like 1 week timeout for feedback on the doc?
Yeah, I mean, I will. Yeah, I think that works. I mean, I think there shouldn't be anything outrageous in the doc itself, so I will start working on the KEP. But yes, on the understanding that yeah, people can still give feedback. But yeah, I also need to run this by SIG API machinery to make sure that they don't want to take on this responsibility, which I am pretty sure they will not want to. And then yeah, if anyone has any comments now, I very much welcome them. But very much positioning this as for the Kubernetes. The difference between like why does an etcd, for example, do this is it's for the Kubernetes control plane, right? It is not a generic etcd tool, and sure, it'll probably work for like other things, but that's not the intended use case.
Justin, do you have a plan to expose this as a library as well?
So, like the etcd ADM command is sort of like kubeadm, where it is something that will be scriptable, is my understanding. It's unclear yet whether the thing which was previously called etcd manager, the automation layer, will do CLI commands or will interact with it as a library. I don't know. Would you use it as a library or?
Yes. I think ideally the way I've constructed other CLI tools in the past too, or in the recent future, is to do both. It's a CLI standalone with a client interface library for folks who want to consume it for automation.
Yeah, I mean, I think kubectl is continuing to work towards that goal. It is difficult to establish a good CLI and a good library, but we can certainly aim for that. I think it's a good idea. I will add that to the scope, I guess. I don't know if anyone else has any comments.
It's great. I appreciate you writing it up, and we can push this thing forward.
Awesome, thank you. And I will work on the start on the KEP in parallel. But yeah, please do comment if you have any thoughts. Like this is the worst idea you've ever seen, or something like that. All feedback welcome.
I did see Antoine there. I did have a question with regards to CI automation for KubeSpray. Have folks, I've been communicating with someone on the KubeSpray project at regular intervals, just wanted to touch base to see where folks are at with regards to the status of that, if it's broadly accepted that this is a good idea or not.
I don't follow too much like the process, but globally, yeah, we all agree it would be great to get this on the test grind.
Do folks provide the capabilities to currently inside of KubeSpray to use any arbitrary versioned container? Because part of the CI automation that'll be a forcing function, right? Because you want to do the tip of master, which means that you build all these containers with the SHA, and then use that SHA'd version to do the deployment.
Yes, we can choose like all the container image. I think there is like for kubeadm there is an issue open to be able to choose it for kubeadm, I think, but otherwise, yes, we will provide a way to choose the tag and images.
Are there any other questions, comments, complaints, concerns about that? Oh, go ahead.
No, go. Sorry.
I'm done. I was going to move on to next topics. So is there any other updates that folks want to make from any other sub-projects, KubeSpray or Minikube or et cetera?
Hops finally supports etcd3. That's the etcd manager thing. So etcd3 is now in, I think Jordan ripped out etcd2 out of 113.
Yeah. What version of COPS are you now supporting? Is it?
COPS is released is 110 still. We are on the same timeline as other people, should we say.
Are there any other sub-project PSAs that folks want to talk about? Are there any other topics that folks want to address? Because we're kind of low on agenda, I think, right now. We can always get 40 minutes back if we want to.
Just wanted to say, sorry I dropped earlier. I just wanted to say that the ADM doc looks good, and I guess I skipped the discussion about the library part, but yeah, I think we should proceed with this.
That's great. Thanks, Igmir. Where you would use it as a library from kubeadm or from something else?
Well, in general, we can do it from kubeadm, and also if you expose it to the users in general, they can use it as well. Because if you only have it as a CLI, if you limit the calls that the users can use, basically we're talking about a package structure. If you have it exported calls, it makes it much easier for users to use it as a library. So the library part in the Go language is a bit ambiguous in general. It's not like C, you export symbols and stuff.
So one thing that'd be really interesting to talk about, maybe not today because I don't think we have the right people, all the people that would need to be here to talk about it, but for any given version of Kubernetes, now that we have all these different subprojects releasing at all these different times, to have a single jump point location for us to be able to discover all of these tools for a specific version of Kubernetes. Because from an end user consumer perspective, it is confusing as all heck. I use other words, but this thing is recorded. So I know other folks have come to us with this topic before, but I think we need to, because we are probably at the forefront of having so many subprojects, that we might have opinions before some of the other folks. So are there any topics with regards to that?
Tim, are you talking about just our organization within the SIG, or are you talking about sort of the multi-repo, I guess, bundle problem, which, like, I think Josh Hope came 2 weeks ago and showed off the bundle.
The bundle problem is useful from a manifest perspective, but the problem is, like, where do I get all the bits for Kubernetes 1.10 latest, right? That includes kops, that includes kubespray, that includes everybody, kubeadm, all the tools. Like, where does a user or consumer of Kubernetes go to find all this stuff?
As I understand Josh's bundle proposal, the idea is that the bundle would be a specification of everything, I guess, underneath the tooling. So not kops and kubespray, but, like, which version of Kubernetes and which version of kubedns and all these other things. And your tooling would point you to a bundle, I guess. So you'd pick a tool and then you'd get the bundle, but because the choice of tool becomes much less important once most of the decisions are made by the bundle. So the bundle becomes the new sort of Kubernetes release artifact, Kubernetes project release artifact, I should say.
We still need discoverability from, like, a UI sort of web pagey.
Yeah, we absolutely do. But I think that the idea is that you pick up tool or an operation tool, and hopefully they're more coherent or commoditized, and then you don't necessarily need to discover the individual components as much.
So then they'd reference a bundle, and we'd have some repository of bundles, like a
like a monorepo. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you just push around the problem someplace else, right? So we're going to have to, because you're like kops, for example, it's revved behind. So you would have to update a manifest for that bundle, after an initial version of the bundle is released, right?
Yes. I mean, kops is a good example in that it exposes, like, two of the really big problems. So we have that issue. We currently have the idea of, like, a stable channel and an alpha channel in kops. So, like, Kubernetes 1.10 something is the one in our stable channel for kops 1.10, which is the current released version. And so that's how we sort of navigate. The other problem which the bundle solves is currently we have these manifests, for example, for Calico, that are basically hard-coded in kops, and we can move those into the bundle.
Yeah, that's two different problems. The first one the second one I totally agree with. I'd like to get rid of the manifests out of any binary deployer tool, and then have that as version separately.
Yes.
The first problem of discoverability and having a single jump point or tool or whatever that allows us to get all the binary artifacts for a given release, that one is also a problem. So if bundle solves both those problems, then I need to dig more into bundle.
There's a pointer to a bundle type concept, which I think is kops calls it a channel. Lots of people call it a channel, but that is a solution. I'm not saying it's the only solution, but it seems there's a meta point, which is I think we should, someone somewhere has to create a repo which has these bundles or something similar in it. Like, when we add it to kops, we're going to start it in the kops repo, but I don't want it to live there. It would be, maybe that's another.
This is the thing where I said that not all the people are here. I know that the CNCF is going to own releases eventually, right? And it should probably be part of whatever that K8's infra project is, or working group or whatever, so that they are fully invested in this idea. I'm actually glad we're talking about this, so we can point DIMS at it later on. And then to have them manage those bundles over time, or pointers to bundles, would be the ideal scenario. They'd also have to manage the actual artifacts themselves, which hopefully would be 90% plus containers, which is a lot easier to manage than the debs and the RPMs themselves.
So basically, this is going to be like yet another package manager.
Yep, sounds like it.
It's much simpler, I'd say. Like, I think the bundle is essentially a manifest.
Isn't a documentation enough to indicate which version to which release and those things? If we have a central page, sorry to interrupt. If we have a central page for the SIG and say like a small matrix with chaos, this version is going to be, or the opposite, like Kubernetes 112, you need to use chaos, this version, kubespray, this version, kubedm, this version, and for 111 will be this way, and we have like a small page and people know where to navigate depending on the tools they want to pick up. And this could link to a bundle if you want, but I think like this matrix could at least be a quick thing to help navigate.
I think we could probably have just a simple, I don't know if it'd be a page in the main documentation, maybe. That might be a little bit, maybe a link on the main page that points to a repo that we maintain that we can update over time. Because the problem with the documentation on the main page is that PRs to the main docs is just painful. So I don't, we're kind of chasing our tail. Maybe we should talk with the K8's infra team and see what their plans or thoughts are there, and then try to sync with them.
But the docs page could just read a JSON file from GitHub and render that.
Sure. How
For
about
example, I don't know, just like
Hugo doesn't render anything, so so
we can have a tool that creates a PR that, like, from.
No, I was thinking client side.
But I think having it machine readable would be, I mean, it would be super helpful for, like, you know, cops and I imagine other tooling to be able to have a specification of what it should be installing. And if humans want docs, that's great. I would hope we could get to the point where there is a tool for everyone that not necessarily the same tool, but a tool for everyone that, like, meets their needs, right? So it hopefully people shouldn't have to go and, like, manually curate their various components because they have a tool that is close enough to their needs that they can use it or adapt it. Tim, where does the K8's infra team meet, or who are those people?
There is a Slack channel. It was kicked off, and Ben's here too. I think he's on that team. There are a group of folks, partial test infra, partial people who have tried to push out the release system out of the main Google hold. So if you look on the wiki, or sorry, on Slack, there is where's the channel? I got too many channels. K8's infra team channel, and that's a good place to have a conversation.
Ben, do you have agenda docs, like when you meet over Zoom and stuff like that?
There is an agenda doc of sorts. I'm not sure where it is off the top of my head. I think nobody's added it to, like, a pinned thing yet. I think this is it. Sent in the chat.
I think because SIG cluster lifecycle is so tightly coupled with the release, like our artifacts are basically how you stand up everything, right? That we're going to be caring a lot about this. I think we might even feed requirements into that group such as like we'd ideally like a testing stable and nightly. I think I speak for everyone in saying that we want this, because we don't really have that with our current situation, and that is a perpetual pain.
Yeah, well, we'd be super interested in seeing more people come. A big problem besides just like sorting out moving is like signing people up to do things.
Hi, I am sort of representing cluster lifecycle, I guess, on Kate's Info team, but could probably do with. I think there's going to be a lot of work, so I think we definitely need more people potentially. We did have a discussion yesterday regarding the Debian problem on the weekend. So our main discussions have been around RPM and Debs and less about the containers at the moment. It's basically where we're at.
Is there a list of problems the team is facing currently, like tracking issues, about problems that people can see and join and help?
We should probably put that together.
That doc has been kind of a running brain dump of like, this is what we're working on, or these are the list of problems. It started as a planning, and then we've kept planning off of it. So like at the beginning of the doc, you can see kind of roughly prioritized by like what order we think is most feasible to work on moving things. So like right now, there's been a bunch of work around trying to get the DNS managed by config in a repo and by this team instead of like Tim Hawken himself.
Yeah, okay. Maybe the team should have a separate repo or somewhere where we can track the issues.
Yeah, so at least for now, there was discussion of that, and we opted to go with, I think, just the Kate's.io repo for this stuff, because we weren't yet fully cleared as like a working group or a SIG or anything yet. We still had like, I think only as of maybe the past week or two have we fit into the governance at all. I believe it's a working group now.
Yeah, I saw the recording from the last meeting.
All right, so I think the TLDR of this is we need to think about it more and plug in with the Kate's Info team with regards to how we would version artifacts and be able to track them over time and be able to modify that list, potentially using bundles where possible. This is super meta, but those who listen to the recording might be able to parse that with some level of sanity.
I had a vague idea. I don't know if it's useful or not. Maybe we could somehow annotate GitHub releases so that this information could be obtained programmatically. So whenever COPS version comes up that matches certain Kubernetes release, that could be picked up. Just a thought.
I prefer to have a version bundle in a separate repository than to have like, because you'd have to retrofit tag annotations on the main repo, and that would be super weird, right? So like if you already had an annotated tag, usually you don't have annotated tags be fungible, usually, but they are fungible if you really wanted to. So that gets funky, I think, from a release perspective.
Also, tools can be decoupled from the Kubernetes release, and it's going to be hard to annotate them.
Yep.
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't thinking about retrospective annotations like that.
So are there any other topics that folks want to discuss? I think I've kind of exhausted everything that was on the list for today.
So I have another meta topic. Sorry. It's about the multi-arch support, and this is a good forum to discuss this because we have a lot of sub-projects. And the original idea by Lucas was to like everything hosted under Kubernetes 6 or Kubernetes incubator to eventually support multiple architectures. Like those architectures that we support for the images that are currently in the GCR bucket, like, you know, the IBM mainframe ARM64, and what was the other one? So the list of these architectures, I mean, should it be, we have a Kubernetes features issue tracking this. And my idea was to kind of remove this as a demand for now, because that's a pretty big demand. What do you think?
I think this should be owned by the release team over time, and to have the problem with the fact that we publish these artifacts is that we have no CI signal from these artifacts. We have it from the main repository, but just because you have an x86-64 that's built in Prow and tested in Prow and is working on that environment doesn't mean anything if you translate that to ARM or S390. So I think the release team should really own this stuff, and eventually, if that's the K8's infra team, they should probably own the multi-arch support. But I don't think they should be shouldered by this project or this SIG.
I will point out again though that whatever we want, like if this SIG wants something from the K8's infra team, we're going to need manpower. Almost everyone who's joined that, especially outside of Google, are people like Dims who are doing way too many things and are not really going to have time to do a lot. That's definitely going to be a big problem going forward if we want any kind of velocity in that group.
I can't sign myself up for that unless I want to skewer myself anymore, and I've skewered myself enough. So I think what I'd probably do is try to resource that with someone else from our side. One of the things I would ideally like to hope for, and this is a governance question, which I might take it back to the higher level folks, is a lot of people throw money at the CNCF, and that's great. But the problem is we need bodies to do the work. So the CNCF has a ton of money, but they don't have enough people who are long-term maintainers of some of these things.
Yeah, we have a few people, but I don't think we can cover all of it. I'm going to be doing some here and there, and I'm going to be working on moving the test infra stuff. But when that starts really moving, that's going to be enough alone before I can really work on anything else.
If I were to use an analogous reference, Apache has an Apache infra team, for better or for worse, if you've ever seen it. So I know this is recorded, so my apologies, but I've seen it. So but they are sourced by different companies, right? They actually dedicate people to work on the infra. And I think as folks contribute to this project, it's not just enough to extract value, that they need to actually, chop the wood and carry the water to get the bits out, that everybody can extract value from. So I think from a governance perspective, I need to have a conversation with other folks to figure out how we manage this in the future, because it's weird. I don't think there's an easy answer to it.
Yeah, so about this issue that Lucas created about the multi-arch support, do you think that we should simply transfer it to SIG release at this point?
Yes.
Because Lucas added, like I pointed out earlier, Lucas added this big goal of having everything multi-arch in Kubernetes, including all the sub-projects and everything. And who is going to monitor this demand for the sub-projects? It's not going to be SIG cost lifecycle for sure. But do you think that it should be like SIG arch, perhaps? Or because SIG architecture is, I don't know.
I think it's SIG release. They own the release artifacts, because I don't think it's necessarily architecture related other than the requirements, right? Of what architectures we should support, right? But I do think the problem with SIG release is there's no continuous group of people that actually work on SIG release across every single cycle. There's a couple of people that do part-time work across every release, but there's no one that really owns it for the long haul to make sure that these things are refined.
Yeah, my problem here is that I get pings from this issue. I'm going to post it in chat. And this is assigned to SIG cost lifecycle because Lucas created it. And the SIG release folks are pinging us about what is the state of this?
Well,
And
why don't I push?
yeah.
Why don't you assign ownership to me or assign me to it, and then I will poke other people to transfer that ownership.
Yeah, I think you are already assigned, I think. Yeah.
Question. I think, there are some, like there are these kubeadm tests now, and I think there's kind, which I think Ben wrote as well. If we ran some of those tests in like QEMU emulating ARM or allegedly S390, I didn't even know that was really a thing, but there we are. Like, would we get some signal? I'd be very slow, I agree, but
you would get signal.
Yeah, we get some. I do think though, like one model I've been thinking about more is, especially as we have all these different cloud providers and things, is that like we should. So I know there's an ongoing effort to open source test grid itself, and now that we have the CNCF org, we should have an easier time setting up like buckets with different people to have access to them directly. I think we might want to look at pushing some of these groups to say have ARM run tests more regularly. They're kind of doing it now. ARM is, at least. If we can get someone with S390X hardware to do the same, we can kind of offload a little bit of the, like, how do we run all of this? Because, like, for example, even if you handed me an S390 box, I don't know anything about how to do anything with one. So
yeah, I think there's a problem with like the people who are the consumers of these artifacts should be the ones who are publishing the CI signal, right? So like Packet is a good example of ARM64 work. They actually have a product. There's no reason why they couldn't contribute resources to push that signal. Same with IBM for mainframes and PowerPC for that matter. So I think it's a matter of linking up the bits and working from a high enough abstract level to make sure that these other folks are aware that we are talking about this problem and somebody else needs to own it if they want to be able to say in their literature that they support Kubernetes.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, we have support for them today to publish conformance signal, and it should be pretty easy for them to set up something somewhere that runs some tests and runs the thing to push the results.
There is also something else, that ARM64 is a consumer level, like general public level architecture for the Raspberry Pis and stuff. So maybe we should have this at least. I don't really have any demand for it personally, or my employer. Like the question is, how should we populate this this dashboard of test grid? Should it be using kind or kubeadm?
What do you mean by that? Like like if you can run the tests in any form, there's just like a script to push it. I think probably if we can get actual hardware, we should run it like on the hardware.
We also have the option to use QEMU, I think, for emulating some of these architectures.
Yeah, but then we're still having to maintain all of it, and it's probably going to be slower, and it won't be as authentic of signal as if we like run it there. Because I think so with something like kind, I'm mostly targeting things that don't need Kubernetes to be as real, or things that are like, say, pre-submit. If we're running in CI just like periodically against the repo and we want signal for the release team, I think we want to cover as many like real scenarios as possible.
So Tim, yeah, I agree. Yeah. Tim, do you know, like historically, who created this dashboard for the multi-platform sequential lifecycle work?
SIG testing.
Or perhaps Lucas?
Which dashboard? You're talking about test grid, or like what do you?
Yeah, I posted a link, the latest link in the chat. That's we have a dashboard about multi-platform.
I have no idea who created that job, but I don't think we should own it for sure.
There's no data in that dashboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can look at Git blame who created it, but so the question is, should we remove it? Like,
I think, well, before we remove it, let's point the issue, that meta topic, back to SIG release and say like, you guys need to maintain or we should probably PR to get that rid of SIG cluster lifecycle out of our name because we don't want to own that stuff, and just call it multi-arch platform or something, or just remove it outright for right now and let SIG release own this.
Yeah, I think we need to create some action in that Kubernetes features issue I posted earlier to basically signal SIG release that they have to own this. Because every single cycle they are like pinging us about this, and maybe that's the starting point to transfer the multi-platform ownership.
Does anyone know, are there any conformant distributions that run on anything other than x86?
There's like one contribution now from ARM Inc. And I need to move where it is. It's only in the SIG node dashboard currently. And it looks like it's actually publishing enough results now. Previously, it was uploading some of the wrong data. And interestingly, at least with how they've got it set up, a few failed the one run we have. But we do have, looks like maybe twice a day or something. We'll see. It's very new.
That feels like progress.
I'm not sure if this is actually in CI. There are a couple of groups that have requested to set up dashboards like this, and then the rate at which it's published looks very much like manual publishing.
Yeah, I don't have anything else on this topic because Dims was also asking me about this, and I tried to give some sort of status, but I don't
I just put a formal statement in the bottom of that issue right now. And I nixed us from the ownership of and the labels. So we need to figure. I'll go to the next couple SIG releases and talk about this too as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other topics? A lot of artifact publishing topics for today. All right, I'll do a 3 count unless anybody else has anything else. Oh,
I can probably change the topic. So I started to create the slides for KubeCon China, where me and Steven were going to be hosting 6 sessions. So if there are some projects under the SIG who wants to, let's say, highlight some of the features or some of us parts of a project, please send us your information so we can include it in the slides.
Alexander, perhaps you can drop your credentials in the SQL Lifecycle Slack.
Yeah, I'll actually I'll add it in my meeting notes and in the Slack.
Okay.
On a similar note, I'll say it here and I'll say it in the Kubedium office hours. Robert and I are doing 2 separate sessions at KubeCon North America, and if there are other folks who would like to co-present, who are interested in co-presenting on either cluster API work or the Kubedium work, if you are planning to go to that venue, then we'd be happy to chat to try and get other folks who are active in the SIG to get involved in the presentation or, you know, in the content itself too as well.
What are your sessions called?
There's deep dives, or there's 2 tracks at any KubeCon. The one track is the actual talks that have been submitted. The other track is basically like the contributor track. So every SIG has the option to be able to present, and we have 2 tracks that we are presenting at the next KubeCon. One is a Kubedium talk, and the other one is a cluster API talk. Are there any more group topics? Going once?
So I came in fairly late, but I did drop into the meeting notes. There was a request from Ihor about non-code contributor opportunities. Did you guys cover that already?
We punted it because the person who put it there was not here.
Hi. Yeah, sorry, I was in transit, unfortunately. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out and see, obviously a lot of this stuff is moving fairly quickly from the cluster API side, hopefully getting out of alpha soon. And we're also making quite significant progress with kubeadm, and a lot of stuff is moving there as well. And we're talking about some of the stuff with SIG release, etc. And is there known opportunities currently that we have within SIG cluster lifecycle for some non-code contributors that we can document and put that out to some people who might be interested? Or yeah, just wanted to kind of bring it up and make sure that we actually took the opportunity to discuss this.
Well, documentation, like you say, but documentation in general is a big problem for projects like Cluster API, which pretty much doesn't have any documentation at all right now. And also kubeadm oftentimes needs help with documentation. So documentation in general is something that we can get help with in terms of non-code contributions.
Quickly, speaking of documentation, how's every project are doing the documentation? Are you doing pull requests on the community's website? Do you have your own website? How it's organized?
So for kubeadm specifically, we have pages on the Kubernetes website, and we do pull requests against the Kubernetes website repo. For Cluster API, to my understanding right now, they mostly maintain Google Docs and Markdown pages, hosted and repositories. And that also needs pull requests, basically, but it's not against the Kubernetes website.
Okay, so.
I'll say that CUPS puts it in the primary documentation is in the CUPS repo, but we are looking at putting it somewhere else. There's certainly documentation on the Kubernetes website, but it's very out of date.
Okay.
So one way to get attention on this, because if you have contributors who want to help, one way to get the attention of the people who can point you out at specific problems is to post in Slack, join the SIG Cluster Lifecycle channel or the Cluster API channel or COPS, and just post that you can help with docs. And this is going to get the attention of the maintainers. So in terms of non-code contributions, is there anything else other than documentation?
That's a question for us. I mean, what is it that we would be looking for outside of documentation? Are we looking for some more formalized project management? Are we looking for, other opportunities for people to contribute outside of code?
Yeah, so there's something else that I can think of at the moment. If we have Kubernetes needs this in general. Like if we have people that monitor test grids on a daily basis, and if they post on Slack like a comment, hey, test grid started failing for this particular test, and even if we have notifications, I know that we have. This is something that we can get help with.
I will say Aaron and I are looking into having mailing lists specifically for those notifications and discussing more around how we can improve ownership. I do think, while that could be helpful, it is kind of a little sad to ask a human to go look at a thing and then tell you if it's changed constantly. That's something that computers are really good at doing for us.
Yeah, I guess I'm one of the sad people that have to do it every day. Yeah.
So I mean, what we could do, for example, is if like right now you are doing this every day, we should probably just put your email in the alerts and make it less manual.
Yeah, one of the problems is I think we didn't set up the notifications correctly because I'm not getting any at the moment.
I guess, but you also have to tune like at what point it decides to notify like how many failures it takes, or
Yeah, what is the threshold for a specific test from green to red? Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember what the default is, but it is like settable.
Yeah, that's probably a bad idea to ask people to do that. So yeah, apart from docs, I don't really have anything else, to be honest.
We should probably enqueue as a follow-up the PR to the test infra repo to set the list as the notification for failing signal after like a day or something, or 2 days. Anyone want to take ownership of that? Because I ain't got time. I was going to do it last time and I didn't actually submit the PRs.
I mean, I can send a PR, but I forgot where I should do it.
Someone can tell me like what things you want that for. I suspect you might not want it for like everything in the dashboard, or
No, just specific things in the dashboard.
Yeah, Ben, can you message me on private, like a location where I should send a PR with an example or something?
yeah, sure.
I know which dashboard we should be following.
Okay, we are nearly out of time, so I think we'll probably call it at that one. We can't really bring up any more topics. We're not going to have enough time to talk about it. So thanks for filling the agenda list. I thought we were at a short agenda, but we managed to take up the whole hour. So thanks, everybody.